What will 2026 bring? How will technology advance? And what will it mean for you? Well, to answer the burning questions is futurist Mal Fletcher. Welcome back to the show, Mal. It's good to have you with us.
Nice to be here again, Adam.
So I want to know, how does being a futurist work? What is a futurist?
It's a great question to start with. A futurist is basically someone who over many years has done a lot of study into history, into present trends and shifts, and as a result of that is able to project forward, extrapolating what those things might mean in the next, say, 10, 20 or 30 years if we continue on the path that we are. It's not so much predicting one thing will happen, it's more about predicting 2 or 3 scenarios that are most likely if we continue in the way we are, whether it's technologically or with generational change or with in other areas of social change.
Well, before we look ahead to 2026 and beyond, let's just quickly look back on 2025. How did that year, or the year we're technically still in, fare with your predictions? What kind of came to light that you'd predicted that actually happened?
Well, that's a great question too. I did look at this recently because I like to keep accountable for these things. And there were several areas where we were absolutely spot on. I say we, myself and those who work for us at 2030 plus. We were especially focused very much on education and how AI and other techs would affect education and healthcare. And in both of those areas, very accurate, with things like what we call extended reality, which is where a student can be placed in an immersive virtual space and experience some historical event or learn a language in an immersive space. Very, very good for education. So that's really taken off a bit this year in some schools, and a lot more are looking at it for the year ahead.
And you're absolutely right. AI is a massive topic in the world at the moment. And I remember talking to you around this time last year when you did say that AI was going to get bigger. What do you think is going to happen with the AI revolution from here? Should we be, I guess, worried in any way? Because some people are.
Yeah, I think there's room for some consternation. I wouldn't say fear. I don't think we need to be paranoid. We need to engage with the technologies and see for ourselves how we might use them in ethical and responsible ways. I think, for example, if you look at humanoid robotics, in this year we're going to see a lot of money spent on developing robots that, for all intents and purposes, look a bit like and certainly behave like human beings, whether it's for doing household chores or for looking after aged care, people in aged care facilities. And AI will be a very big part of that. And there are concerns. Just as an example, humanoid machines are doing our chores at home. Will we treat humans worse as a result of that? So there are big ethical questions, and that's one of our focuses at 2030 plus, is the ethical implications of AI. But I don't think it's a case of fear. I think it's just caution.
I mean, some tech bosses have said that they feel in the not too distant future that we wouldn't need to work. I mean, do you think things might head in that direction at some point?
Well, there's a lot of talk about universal basic incomes and things like that. Can I just say that in countries like Finland, there have been limited experiments with this type of approach where the government will pay you a set amount, or some authority pays you a set amount, and you decide then whether you want to augment that with your own labour. And what they've found is that if we live like that, we fail to meet our basic psycho-emotional needs as human beings. So, for example, our need to feel productive, our need to feel like we're solving problems, our need to feel like we're creating value for the community, that we're supporting our families through our labour. These are psycho-emotional needs that we have. And once you get rid of labour, you lose all of the access to those particular things. So I don't think we should be looking to substitute human labour for some sort of fully automated society. Machines should be seen as our collaborators at best, even our servants, but never our masters, as it were.
Talking of AI, of course, they need huge data centres for AI to work. And actually, one's been approved to be built in Didcot for £1.9 billion. But for anybody who might not know, what does one of these data centres look like, and what exactly do they do?
Well, actually, I live about 5 minutes from a data center, so I've seen this firsthand. It is to do with the rapid expansion of things like generative AI, which most people use now, things like ChatGPT, and they do place, as you say, unprecedented demands on our energy grid. These networks of computers need a lot of energy to drive them, and they will, in the next few years, including the year ahead, pop up all over the British landscape. As a result of our use of things like AI, we're likely to see at least a doubling of electricity usage well before the end of 2030 in the UK. And that, as you know, places an incredible burden on the grid, the energy grid. It challenges our targets for things like housing, because those things have to be built somewhere and they're competing for land. Farmers have to compete with data centers when it comes to water for irrigation, especially in dry seasons, because you need water to cool these networks of computers. And the other kind of tricky thing with data centers is that they pump out significant levels of CO2. One recent study showed that AI's carbon footprint globally is about the same as that of New York City, which is an amazing thing to think about.
Wow.
So, for all its benefits, one of the downsides of AI is that it does require huge amounts of power to drive it. We tend to think that because we're using AI on our phone or our computer, that it just goes off into the air somewhere. But that data is stored physically in physical locations we call data centers. And the one down the road from us looks a bit like a prison. It's just high fences, not barbed wire, but spikes on the top of the fences. And then you've got huge air conditioning units on the roof of this thing and absolutely no windows. So I thought it was a prison for a while until I realized there were no windows and there were
Yeah.
lots of air conditioning tubes.
Yeah.
So it's clearly what it turned out to be, a data center.
Do you think looking forward then, these data centers as they pop up, is it going to just be like supermarkets these days? Like it'll just be another data center on this corner and another data center in that field?
Well, I think they'll meet with more resistance than that, because supermarkets meet a more basic need, the need for access to food and so forth.
Mm.
Data centers are, in a sense, feeding a luxury item, although AI is becoming more part of our lives. It comes back to a thing we call hyperdigitization, which is where big tech companies, or AI developers, if you like, are trying to bring almost every experience of human life under the digital umbrella. They're trying to add a digital component to everything we do. If you think back 5 years, Adam, to all the things you did then that didn't require an app or an algorithm, and then compare that to today, and then imagine 5 or 10 years from now how many more things we might be using apps and algorithms for. You can see how the demand is growing exponentially. And as I say, they've got to be powered in some way. But I do think there will be resistance. I think communities will say we demand the right of a veto over a particular centre in our area, or we demand that our residential area is behind high sort of defences, high walls that allow us to escape some of the noise that the cooling fans often generate. Data centers also can generate large amounts of methane gas if they're not treated correctly, if they're not built right. So, there's a lot of challenges there, and it's yet to be addressed, and hopefully it will be in the year ahead.
Final question. I'm a gadget man. I love my gadgets, so this is close to my heart. Are we close to AI being implanted into humans like the sci-fi films, like Total Recall, and, a phone in our little finger, or what it might be, a touch screen that's an invisible one in front of us with augmented glasses on? Like, is it really going to go that way, do you think?
I think it will, to a degree. I mean, I think in medicine, for example, we will see more implanted devices. It's a natural progression from today's wearables, isn't it? Are you wearing something all the time on your wrist or somewhere? It's the next progression to say, well, I need a heart monitor or a manager for my breathing. I might build that in. But I think it's more likely to happen in the short term for diagnostic purposes, for management purposes, not so much for the sort of enhancements where we're talking about supervision or super hearing or something like that. That's sci-fi.
I guess it's already happening in some cases, because I know some friends who have type 1 diabetes, and they have monitors that tell them their blood sugar levels 24/7, and it will even tell their pump that they need more insulin putting in because they've just eaten something and their sugar's about to spike. So I guess we're kind of already there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where as I say, the injectable, if you like, tech can be really helpful. But if we're talking about areas of just enhancing the human abilities, we need to be very, very careful that we don't lose sight of what is human and what is machine. There has to be a line between those two things. Now, if you've got any transhumanist philosophers listening to me now, they might vehemently disagree, but I think it's very important that we keep a sense of human identity even as we use technology to the maximum, including implantable tech.
Wow. I mean, it's fascinating. I could sit here and chat to you all day about this, Mel, but for now, we've got to say goodbye. But is there anywhere people can go if they're listening and they want to find out a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, they can visit our main site, 2030plus.com, or my name is on 6 or 7 of the social media platforms. So you can find Mal Fletcher on Twitter or X and all kinds of places. That might be helpful.